the Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, Week 3 rankings. Debate each position. Hit the description if you want to jump to a specific position. Or if you just want to jump to the rankings will be updated all throughout the week because, hey, stuff changes. What happens on a Tuesday night in terms of injuries is not exactly what's going to happen come Thursday afternoon or Sunday morning. In fact, on Sunday morning, the rankings will get a complete update on the 10 a.m. Sunday morning live show on the DraftKings YouTube channel with myself and Garion Thorne, who is in the studio with me.
I am.
And Tim Andercuss usually joins us, which is just fun. And then people complain that I'm too mean to Tim.
I mean, look, Tim is not worth much on those shows, but he is a prophet when it comes to specifically Adrian Peterson.
He is 100% on calling Adrian Peterson good weeks and Adrian Peterson bad weeks. So maybe, I think it's because for so long that he loved Adrian Peterson. And then like when he was bad, Tim still kept the faith.
Right.
That he's so cursed that Tim can control the curse on Adrian Peterson. Only person he can do that to.
Yeah. I mean, it's a working theory, which is right now the best we have.
So joining us here on the line, we're trying to get a different expert in every week, like not even quote expert like us, like real experts. So from The Athletic, you saw him on Monday's show. Now you're seeing him on Tuesday's show. It's Jake Ciely. What's going on, dude?
Yeah, and goodbye to your viewership that everybody wanted to see Andercuss.
No, Andercuss is on Thursdays every week.
Yeah.
Oh, well then, yes, everybody's just going to tune out and come back. Everybody hates me. You know that. I see the comments.
Oh, see, that's your problem. You shouldn't be reading the comments. The comments are just awful. Awful places to be. Some people make good comments, but they're overrun by the bad comments.
No, I still like the one where the guy said I had a punchable face and I look like the guy who leaves with his ball playing the game. And I told him I don't even have a ball. I'm poor. I was just throwing rocks at other rocks.
No, you see, you should have been. If you weren't picked, you should have thrown rocks at the people. Then that could lead to hatred. But I have a far more punchable face than you. Now, there's our giveaway for the week. So, in the comment section of Pat Mayo, Jake Ciely, and all the Pat Mayo Experience Expanded Universe, after you give the episode a like, in the comment section, leave your DK handle and tell me who you think is the person who appears on this show the most and has the most punchable face. I think I'm going to win.
Nah.
Are you so you're included?
I'm included. You can throw me into this mix too. Not the person. Not the person.
It's gonna be you or me.
Not the person you most want to punch.
That's different.
The person with the most punchable face.
Huh.
Who would it be for you?
I'm trying to think.
I'd pick me. If I saw someone like me, I'd want to knock that guy out. Just. And it's happened so many times.
I was gonna say I have seen you get punched in the face.
Yeah, it happens all the time.
It really fits in my mind already. Yeah.
So there you go. Jake, who would it be for you? Would it be me as well?
If I couldn't pick myself, it would be you.
See, I just want to win something. This is a great lift to my spirits.
With that kind of attitude, you're getting less and less punchable with every second.
Yeah, well, fuck you, Gary.
There it is.
How about that?
There it is.
You know what? You people out there, fuck all of you too. Right there. Don't hit me like here or in the teeth. I've chipped 4 teeth from being punched in the face. I'm done with getting punched in the teeth.
That's
well, one time I got punched in the jaw so hard, both my back molars, like when my teeth hit, they both like popped out the back. It was bad news.
I feel like you generally just invite people to give you a chop across the chest.
The chop is fine. Yeah, if you just want to come up and Ric Flair, woo, chop me, and we're good to go. I'll even rip the shirt open for you.
I just feel like that really diffuses situations. So
it does.
That's been a nice thing for you.
Yes. No, I'm going to temper that. I was going to tell you about a real life thing, but I'm just going to say send some thoughts and prayers towards Pat Mayo and his friends.
Yes.
Just we'll put it that way. No, in all seriousness, we got some bad news. Hopefully it turns out well, and that's I don't like to bring real Pat into this. This is show Pat.
Yeah.
He gets to be more fun. Don't want to leave on a dour note. But if you are the praying type out there, I myself am not, so it would be very disingenuous for me to do that. But if you are, please keep friends of Pat.
I got you covered.
You got me covered on that front? Well, thank you very much, Jake. And in all seriousness, if you guys are out there, just 5 seconds all it takes. Just send some positive vibes my way, all right? Thank you very much. Running backs. Let's get into it.
Yes.
Start with the rankings. Probably in. Fournette probably back this week, I'm assuming. If not, check the updated ranks. McCoy I have is in right now with the ribs. He might not play, though. We'll get to that situation a little bit later on. Darren Sproles could be back, which, again, could be super influential to this week. Dalvin Cook, hamstring. We don't know yet. I have him as in. Melvin Gordon I have as in. And Tariq Cohen, who injured his ankle on Monday Night Football, I have as in as well. Probably out. Devonta Freeman and Joe Mixon are out. Rob Kelly got put on IR, so that severely affects the rankings. Le'Veon Bell, I doubt he comes back, but the big one from today was Jay Ajayi. He's not officially out yet. They're just saying he's probably not going to play.
Yeah, it seemed strange a little with the timing. I mean, he came back in that game, scored a touchdown.
No, I thought you meant it was especially awkward because I had just released my rankings, and 5 minutes later, it's like, yeah, Jay Ajayi's not going to play.
Oh, no, they do that on purpose. It just seems odd. I get the back injuries are, you know, strange enough as it is, but to say already not definitively, but like with 90% certainty on a Tuesday that he's not going to play, I don't know. Just seems strange.
Jake, are there any of those guys that you would take out? Because I always like to lean on the side of they're probably going to play unless I hear other news and then I can adjust later on. Because like if I didn't rank Leonard Fournette, it was like last week. I didn't think Fournette was going to play. So I didn't put him in the rank. People are like, but Fournette's definitely going to play. He didn't play. Do you think any of those guys have like a less than 50% chance of playing?
I would put the odds on Jay Ajayi being that one. It just sounds speculative so far. They brought up Josh Adams, and it sounds like they're trying to make another move for wide receiver, which has nothing to do with that. But it sounds like they're already making plans for no Jay Ajayi this week, and I don't think it has any contingency on whether or not Darren Sproles plays because we could get more Wendell Smallwood. I think as of today, no, we don't have to do it. It's Tuesday. You know, we say this every single week. We don't have to set our lineup right now. But if I was setting my lineup right now, I would set it as Clement in as the lead and no Jay Ajayi.
Well, just kind of update waivers a little bit. People are watching this on a Tuesday night. If not, fast forward like 45 seconds. Hit the tap, 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 and you're good to go on your iTunes. And would you pick up, where would Clement fall on the waiver wire list in terms of running backs? I still think Gio's number one. I would still pick up probably Eckler and Lindsey above him. Then it would be him. Because it's probably just 1 week, right?
It's probably just 1 week, and I still think that regardless of who is the Eagles' lead running back, we kind of saw this last week. I just think that Peterson is pretty set in his ways. I don't think he's ever going to be giving a majority of the touches or snaps to a single guy. They'll just roll running backs through. I think they've got 5. If Ajayi is active this week, they've got 5 running backs on their 53-man roster.
Right.
That's a lot of running backs. Most teams carry 4. So I would never say, I like Clement, but I would never say that any of these guys definitively becomes a top 20 running back just because they happen to be starting for the Eagles.
No, I would keep going. I would go Breida before him. I would go Powell before him, just because to the point is you're going to get him for 1 week. And while this is a great matchup against the Colts, like you said, Peterson doesn't go away from being Peterson. The years before this, we had the numbers. Sproles in only 3 different games was the only person to ever see more than 60% of the snaps. So it's just not going to change because Ajayi's out.
I would only go after him if I desperately needed to start running back to start this week, and I knew I wasn't going to get Gio. That'd be the only way I'd look at it.
Yeah,
and
that makes sense. And if Darren Sproles is out, it helps a little bit.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Like he's probably going to see, let's say, 50% of the touches, probably the goal line work, maybe the goal line work. That's what you'd be hoping. And when we get to him in the rankings, I have him ranked like Jay Ajayi is not playing, so we can talk about him then.
Sure.
The rankings, also, that awful Mark Ingram is not playing. Alvin Kamara comes in at number 1. Todd Gurley at number 2. Zeke, Gordon, Christian McCaffrey, James Conner, Saquon Barkley, Tevin Coleman, Kareem Hunt, and David Johnson, everyone's biggest pariah, which would lead us to the worst Twitter question in the world. And the one from last week is looking far and far less worse when the guy said, should I drop Deshaun Watson for Ryan Fitzpatrick? And we had a hearty chuckle. I still wouldn't do it. But,
probably still don't do that.
Probably still not do it. But the guy asked me this week, the one that I saw, dead serious, non-ironic question. Garion, should you drop David Johnson?
No.
Jake?
If you're in my league, yes.
But let's say you're not in the league.
Absolutely not. Right before he came on, I had one of David Johnson and something else for Todd Gurley. And the something else's were like, why? I think it was Emmanuel Sanders and so, like, people are full on panic mode here.
I get why they're in full-on panic mode. And someone actually left, when I talk about like the shitty comments, sometimes there are really good comments.
Yeah.
I try not to read them, but Paul points them out to me every now and then. And he said, hey, take a look at this one. So I took a look at it, and it was just like, how come coming into the season, no one talked about the change in coaches and offensive coordinator when you have Ellen DeGeneres calling your plays for you in Arizona? Is this going to severely impact? Why did no one see that coming? And to me, I think that's a very prescient point, but it's really hard to gauge. Like, who knew that Dirk Cutter releasing the offense to someone else all of a sudden made the Tampa offense good?
Yeah, there's
it's so hard to gauge.
Yeah,
and you would think David Johnson's such a good receiver. Why wouldn't you throw him the ball?
That's the thing. There's offensive philosophies and there's coaching tendencies, but there's also this guy would never have had a player to the caliber and also just the unique ability of David Johnson. So you would think that that would override any pre-standing coaching philosophies. They've already said they're going to run more routes with him this week. I guess it took 2 full weeks to figure out.
What did you say before we came on? The 9 receptions to running backs? How many teams are giving that up?
Yeah, right now there are 9 teams in football averaging over 10 targets per game to running backs. So everyone else in the league has realized that you can get your running back, arguably your most skilled player, in space and really just utilize him that way, except for the Cardinals. They decided to go the exact opposite.
They tried to
direction.
zig where the others are zagging.
The real problem here, though, is I remember I said this exact thing last week, which was I have no worries about David Johnson. He still produced, and there's no possible way he could be in a worse game script than he was in week 1. He was in a worse game script in week 2. It's worrisome. Like, they are. I think if the Bills didn't exist, we'd really be having, like, symposiums about the awfulness of the Arizona Cardinals.
We'll see.
Terrible.
Maybe when they eventually get to Josh Rosen, it'll be fine. But Jake, of those top 10 guys, they're all starts, right? Like they're still on the must-start list.
No, including David Johnson. And, there were some people, it's safe to go to that point. There were some people that were talking about Mike McCoy, but we kind of also, to Garion's point, we kind of made the counter argument like, well, he learned from what Melvin Gordon is doing now. Like, because he did this same thing to Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon almost doubled his targets and receptions after McCoy left. And so we're out there and saying, well, obviously he's with David Johnson. He's smart enough to know that, but maybe he isn't. So I think it's more of the fact that nobody was talking about because nobody was really thinking he was that stupid.
Yeah,
That's a really good way to put it.
This is true. So those 10 all starts. We don't want to get bogged down in the guys that we know you're starting. The next level from 11 to 20, Jordan Howard, Gio Bernard, even in a tough matchup at Carolina. For whatever reason in my mind, they play Atlanta next week. I keep thinking they're playing Atlanta this week.
It's a weird matchup. I'm with you. Carolina, Cincinnati.
Yeah,
just
Cincinnati
doesn't seem
at
like a
Carolina is
matchup
just
that happens
weird.
in the NFL.
Leonard Fournette, Dalvin Cook, Lamar Miller, Kenyon Drake, Chris Thompson, Corey Clement, Carlos Hyde, and Dion Lewis. Jake, where would you go to on that list? And you can even throw in other guys if you think that I have them misranked that you think are just lock-in must-starts. Because I would go to Gio Bernard, only because Fournette and Dalvin Cook have injury concerns that we'll see how that shakes out for them. But those top 12 I just think are automatic must-starts.
I'm with you, but I would actually jump underneath that and move people in front. Because my 2 must-starts, including that list, are Kenyon Drake and Chris Thompson. And I know that Chris Thompson doesn't get the carries, but this is another matchup where nothing's going right for this team right now. But the one thing that is Chris Thompson. If you're looking at a game script here, we should be passing even more. I find it hard not to have Chris Thompson as a must-start, and because you're doing PPR ranking. In non-PPR, we'd have a different conversation. And Kenyon Drake, people haven't realized how good he's been through the first 2 games.
I can see that. So, I mean, then what do we do? Do we assume that, because where I have Fournette and Cook in, that assumes they're playing. Now, do we have to factor in that if they do play, they'll be somewhat limited, and that's why you would drop those 2 down? Or do you just like the other 2 way more? Because it's not like Drake has been really good, but he's still in a split.
No, I think I like the other 2 way more, and it's more about the fact of, is Fournette playing? Is he going to play his full complement of snaps? Because they say, you know what, we have TJ Yeldon. We don't need to push the issue with Fournette. The Cook thing is the same situation. I actually wouldn't be surprised if they just hold out Cook because of the matchup. They don't need him this week. And then if he does play, just what we saw last week. I actually just wrote this up in my sleepers and busts part, saying that Latavius Murray is a terrific sleeper because by the second quarter, they're going to be grinding out the clock, and they might not use Dalvin Cook for the entire second half.
Well, okay, so Latavius Murray I have ranked at number 65 right now, just assuming that it's going to shake out this way. But Jake's right, and this is sort of what I wanted to allude to with the Clement thing when we talked about the waiver, because we talked about this on yesterday's show, Jake, that Murray might be a good pickup because Cook just might sit by the end of it. They're just like, screw it, we're not playing Cook. And then Latavius gets all the work. But now everyone's just on Clement. They're on Gio. They're on Clement. That people just might forget about Latavius Murray if he's still available in leagues. Would you spend a $0 bid or a $1 bid on him, Jake, to go get him right now just to see how this week breaks out?
I would go even a little bit higher. Just if I need running back help, I'd throw $3, $4, $5 on him.
Okay, let's say Garion Cook sits. Where would Murray rank?
If Cook were to sit, I would say you'd have to probably put Murray
13
somewhere. Yeah, I was gonna say somewhere around the Lamar Miller, Leonard Fournette. Yeah, right inside your top 15.
So I'll move Chris Thompson up, Jake. Would you go Gio or Chris Thompson?
Oh, Gio.
So you would go Thompson over Cook over Fournette. Would you go him over Lamar Miller?
Yeah, I would at this point.
So move him up to number 13?
Yeah.
number 13. I can get on board with that. I'm not sure. Drake, you're the Dolphins aficionado here, Garion.
Sadly.
Drake has looked really good.
Yeah, I would say the concerning thing is where Frank Gore popped several times in week 1, but still played.
You think at his age he'd pop his hip more than on the field?
You would think so, and I really hope he does at some point. But
that's not fair to say.
Oh, he's a better team captain than he is a player. But where he was only playing 29% of the snaps in week 1, it just seemed like he was playing more because he had these 6, 7, 8-yard runs consistently. He was up to 40% of the snap count last week. So maybe this starts to dissolve a little bit as we get later into the season and Gore's, the mileage on Gore's legs just kind of go away and start racking up. But I do think this is a 65-35 split consistently for Drake, and that really keeps him from being an RB1. Jake's right. He's been exceedingly good with the touches he's been given. Ryan Tannehill and this Dolphins offense is comprised almost entirely of 10-yard passes or less than 10-yard passes, and that really, really speaks to Drake being utilized in the backfield as a receiver. But Gore's going to be on the field every third set of downs. So,
would you play him over Fournette or Cook?
I would probably play him over Cook this week just for some of the reasons that Jake was talking about. I think there's enough ways that this gets out of hand, and there's also just obvious concerns, not even with just the new hamstring injury, but this is someone coming off of major knee surgery as well. I think if you're the coaching staff and you can truly view this as a bye week or, kind of a tune-up game, there's a serious chance that Dalvin Cook walks out of this game with less than 10 carries.
Okay, so Jake, would you move Lamar Miller above that questionable package as well?
I would move him ahead of Dalvin Cook, but probably not Leonard Fournette.
Okay, so I'll move Drake up too. So I'm actually rethinking this now. Drake, so it'll go Howard, Bernard, Drake, Thompson, Fournette, Cook, Miller. That's the way I'm going to keep it. I would still kind of gamble with the Cook and Fournette. Unless we hear different Cook news, then I'll move them, then I'll take them out. Then it's not that big of a deal. Let's keep going. Corey Clement, Carlos Hyde, Dion Lewis, and then the 21 to 30 range, we have Marshawn Lynch, Matt Breida, Alex Collins, James White, Philip Lindsay, Bilal Powell, LaShawn McCoy, Austin Eckler, Adrian Peterson, Peyton Barber. Thoughts, comments, snide remarks?
Wow, I'm not as high on Carlos Hyde and Marshawn Lynch as you are.
Once we got into this territory, I just started looking at it who are the guys that I know are going to touch the ball a lot and probably touch it near the goal line. And I started thinking, is Alex Collins one of those guys? Well, no, he's not, because we've seen Buck Allen kind of usurp him right on the goal line. And I know Lynch is getting the goal line touches. I know Carlos Hyde is getting the goal line touches. And I can't make a compelling case for anyone down here except for LaShawn McCoy, but I don't know how injured he is. According to some reports, he has broken ribs.
Yeah. I think I would have Breida. I think I would have Lewis ahead of Clement.
Really?
Just for some of the reasons we were talking about. I just look at...
Brady didn't even play 50% of the snaps. He just had 2 really big runs.
Yeah, I know. But
I know he looked good.
That's fair.
And this is a pass-happy game script against the Chiefs.
It's a very pass-happy game script. Also, it's a 56 projected total.
Sure, but also when you look at it too, when you're playing a team like the Chiefs, what's the antidote to the Chiefs as of right now?
Oh, sure, you want a ball control and
give it to Elf and let him slow down the game by grinding out the clock.
If you look at what the Chiefs have done so far this season, the Chiefs have the second lowest amount of plays run per game.
Every time they pass, it's an 80-yard touchdown.
They don't need a lot of time. I think that this is one of my least favorite games of all time, but people will remember in the Wildcat season.
Oh, the Dallas Clark game.
The Dallas Clark game, where the Dolphins possessed the ball for 42 minutes, and Peyton Manning still beat them because he's Peyton Manning, and he was just better and didn't need time to score. I think that there's no real way that the Niners can scheme the Chiefs' offense out of this game, so I don't even know if they necessarily attempt to do that. I think it's much more likely that they get down early in this game, and then Breida just stays on the field.
But it could be Jersgerick, too.
Also, I would say that we know what Breida's role is. I know he's going to be on the field for 50% of snaps. I don't even really know that with Corey Clement.
I think Clement will end up playing. I mean, is Corey Clement the one you would move down, Jake?
I would actually move Carlos Hyde. I like Breida and and probably, well, I don't know. Collins, I keep going back and forth on. It's everything you brought up, is everything we've been talking about. I think Collins looked better than people realized last week. I mean, he still had, 8-9 points in PPR. I think he had barely over double digit.
Yeah, he had 12 in PPR last week.
Yes. So it was still a solid game. It's just everybody looked at the other side of it, which you've already brought up, is that Buck Allen is getting the goal line carries, which still baffles everybody, but that's what you have to worry about with him. I'm on the Breida thing. It's the person I was looking at as well, and everything Garion said, I would still go Clement if Jay Ajayi was out, but I would move Breida, my point being in front of Carlos Hyde, Deion Lewis, and Marshawn Lynch.
I think the interesting thing with Alex Collins is how often do we think the Ravens are actually going to be down 21 points at home? Because that was one of the things.
Well, at the goal line.
Well, that's at the goal line, sure, but I also mean just in terms of him being identical in terms of snap count with Buck Allen. That had to be part and parcel with the fact this game script got way out of hand very quickly with the Bengals. I don't think the Ravens are going to be down 3 scores in the first half against the Broncos.
Oh, the Ravens will show you.
It's possible, but we know this team performs better at home. We know the defense has historically performed better at home. I just think that this is an environment in Baltimore much more conducive to Alex Collins getting like 60 to 65% of the snap carry.
Yeah, that's why.
Plus, with the Browns, well, we got the whole thing with the Browns with all these coaches coming out and saying people need more snaps after 2 weeks. But Jordan Howard needs more snaps, and Duke Johnson needs more snaps, and David Johnson needs more touches. Like Duke Johnson's in that mix of coaches coming out and saying we need to give him more touches.
Yeah, but I can't believe a word that anyone on the Cleveland coaching staff says. Like, let's be real here.
That is true.
From watching the Browns and are the Browns like the most watched team through 2 weeks? I feel like everyone has just sat down and watched these Browns games because they've both been highly entertaining.
Yeah, it's hard knocks. But also, they just got to play the Steelers and the Saints.
And they were both close games,
teams,
too.
Yeah.
And I feel like Carlos Hyde has looked really good in both those games.
He's been fine.
And every time they get near the goal line, it's his.
Look, we know, I would say, and I think I said this last week, of any running back who's in a timeshare opportunity, the most set in stone is the Browns. We know exactly what the role of Carlos Hyde and exactly what the role of Duke Johnson is, and it's played out every game, even in the preseason.
Don't forget the role of Nick Chubb, who is spectator.
I was about to be like, oh, did he get more snaps in week 2?
He played 5% of snaps.
I think it was 4% in week 1.
He might need more touches this week, like everybody else.
Everyone needs more touches. We'll just run more plays. That's also a key thing with that Arizona thing, too.
They run no plays.
They
are
don't
never
run
on
plays.
the field. They are never on the field. They did not get they ran 2 plays in their opponent territory in week 2. Congratulations.
That is awful.
I'll get to let's say, Alex Collins at 23. I'm going to keep it how it is. I like Breida where I have him. For me personally, I like Hyde where I have him personally. Clearly, you guys disagree. I think
it's all, look, they're all low-end RB2s. So to have them anywhere from 16 to 24.
But you could have 3 of these guys
that's
on
fair.
your team.
That's fair. I would just say that of this group, the guys I feel confident about what their role is, aside from Alex Collins and Marshawn Lynch, who I would agree of this grouping are the most likely to get 15 carries in a game, along with Carlos Hyde. I just know what Breida and I know what Lewis are. And I think in an RB2 situation where maybe I'm a little pressed, I feel like I elevate that over most things. I just know what their role is going to be.
Okay, so the rest of them here, White, Lindsey, Powell, McCoy, Eckler, Adrian Peterson, Barber, Derrick Henry, Jamal Williams. We'll talk about the Aaron Jones situation here in a second. Royce Freeman, Rex Burkhead. Jake, should any of those guys be higher? Like, what the hell do you do with Shady? I literally have no idea.
Oh, I don't want to start anybody. If Sean McCoy is starting this game, it's the Vikings, or not the Vikings. It's the Vikings, right? Yeah. What the hell? I'm having a brain fart. It's Tuesday night. I'm still in the middle of waivers and all that other crap. Anyway, I don't want to start him if he's not 100%. I don't want to start him if he was 100%. I talked about the fact that I like this draft capital, and this was a matchup that I really wanted to have other options for to begin with. And the hell, if he's out, I'm not doing the Chris Ivory or Marcus Murphy nonsense. So
I would play Marcus Murphy before I played Chris Ivory.
I would not touch any running back, and I don't want to touch basically the entire Bills offense in this game.
I mean, that's fair. I just think that if LaShawn McCoy doesn't play and Marcus Murphy can sneak onto the field for like 50% of the snaps, he might be this week's, like, I don't want to say Chris Todd, week 1 Naheem Hines, where he has like 8 catches.
Possibly, but
that's his role in this offense.
I still think there's just backup running backs who are
better,
but also just who are currently RB3s who I just feel much more confident. Like, I would much rather play Austin
might
Eckler.
Go for 20 yards.
That's fine. That's a solid 10 points.
Nah.
Okay, Gary, let me ask you, because I think I know where Jake shakes down on this. Phillip Lindsay or Royce Freeman this week?
I guess it has to be Lindsay. Like, I'm not particularly excited for either. I think you're right in having neither as an RB2.
But people are talking about Philip Lindsay like he's the best running back ever.
I stand by what I said last week. Philip Lindsay's main value in fantasy is not that he has value. It's that he's messed up Royce Freeman's value or just a single back system with the Broncos. Look, if you look at every single metric aside from just actual yards per carry or something very surface like that, where Lindsay's obviously producing very well. I saw some numbers that he runs exceedingly well between the tackles. That's a skill set. Cool. Maybe that's something the coaching staff looks at and says, you're our definitive goal line back. But right now we're dealing with a situation where I think Lindsay's had 4 carries in the red zone and Freeman's had 3. And also Case Keenum had 1. So there's nothing about either that juts out and says this is the guy in this backfield. So I think you're basically looking at a situation where if you're desperate, you can start either, and you just kind of have to hope that it's their drive or their rotation where they're on the goal line.
Jake, do you think that Philip Lindsay will end up being bustier this week than people think? Because if people didn't get him week 1 on the waiver wire, now they're spending all their fab bucks to go get him. They're definitely playing him if they picked him up, but these are always the guys I screw up every year because I'm either all in or all out on them, and I tend to be more all out on these type of situations. So do you think that Lindsay over Freeman for this week makes sense?
I think it makes sense in PPR every single week at this point because not only does he have more snaps and more touches, he actually has more carries than anybody in this backfield. He is Danny Woodhead. I told you that yesterday. We talked about it, and I told you that people thought that was a slight, but it's not a slight. That's a very high-end compliment for what Lindsay is. And he's almost the exact same player to height, to weight, to skill set, to everything he does. He can be their version of Danny Woodhead. And you look at it in a PPR, that's fringe RB2 value. And some years and in some situations, we saw Danny Woodhead in PPR knocking on the RB1 door. So I'm the other side of it. I'm starting Lindsay as an RB2 in any PPR format.
Philip Lindsay or Austin Eckler this week?
For the matchups, Philip Lindsay.
Yeah, Lindsay.
Right.
That's
the way that I have it. I think those guys are in.
We've continued to see now. It's been 2 really, really bad offenses, so I don't know how much you can really extrapolate from this, but if there's going to be a team that's kind of like this year's Broncos, where they just funnel everything to the middle of the field. I mean, if you go back and look at the Broncos' numbers against wide receiver 1s and wide receiver 2s and compare them to slot receivers, tight ends, and running backs, they got slaughtered by the latter last season. And right now, I believe it's 39 yards allowed by Peters and Talib with the Los Angeles Rams. They are smothering anything outside the 20s, and everything just gets put on the tight end and on the running backs. And I think we've seen that where, Virgil Green's not going to all of a sudden be like a top 10 tight end.
Is it because he has to be the $1 million man's butler?
It really does take up most of his time. But Austin Eckler and Melvin Gordon are just running routes and are exceedingly involved in the passing game.
I 100% agree with you, and that's I actually bring up the same point in my column. I'm glad you said that about funneling everything to the middle, and the Rams are doing very similar. The concern I have here is where one is dealing with Royce Freeman, the other is dealing with Melvin Gordon, and Melvin Gordon can be that same option as we just saw last week, which leaves Eckler how much use does the entire backfield get in this game versus just Gordon or just Freeman, and that's my only concern of why the split comes down to that.
I actually think, and we'll talk about this more on the show with Jeff and Cuss coming out on Thursday, I think that Chargers-Rams game shoots out.
You think so?
I do.
That's a fair thought.
I think that these are... who have the Rams played so far?
No one.
They played Oakland's offense and the Cardinals' offense. Maybe their defense isn't as good as maybe people are thinking. I think
that's fair, but it is a very good defense.
It is. It should be good. But the Chargers are a different beast. The Chargers are a good offense.
I will say they haven't... If there's one thing you could knock them for, it's they haven't gotten pressure yet. Now, when you're winning by 7 scores in a game, you don't need to bring any exotic blitz looks or anything along those lines. But this team shouldn't actually have to blitz when your 2 interior tackles are Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh. So...
Yeah, but I just think about Phillip Rivers, and I think you kind of hit on it with Eckler and Melvin Gordon, and they'll move Keenan Allen to the slot. They might move Mike Williams into the slot. Phillip Rivers is good at getting the ball out quickly. And he loves dumping the ball off anyway. There could be enough work here, and you can't bank on it. That's why Eckler is still ranked at number 28 here and behind someone like Philip Lindsay, because it's probably just safer with Lindsay. But the upside here for that backfield with the Chargers is Melvin Gordon could have 13 targets and Austin Eckler could have 10. That just might be what they do on offense.
That's plausible, which is kind of crazy, but it is. I think you're right having Lindsay ahead of Eckler, though. But yeah, I agree with Jake. I think that in a PPR, that is where he kind of pulls out ahead of Royce Freeman definitively, but I'm not as high as Jake is, but I think justifiably so he is a fringe RB2. So 25 is a good spot to have him.
Jake, I have 3 Patriots running backs on my roster. Hypothetically, I do not actually have this in real life.
That's a bad draft.
You have to start one, bench one, and drop one for week 3. How are you doing this?
I'm dropping all 3. I want nothing to do with all of them. You know that. Look, if you have to, you got to go with the lead. And so it's unfortunately it's Sony Michel. That's just
in a PPR, you got to play James White, I think.
If you want a safe floor, I mean, that's what James White is. He's the safe floor. He's theoretic. He's okay. That's fine. I get my 7 to 10 points every single week. But if you're going for some upside here, like if I'm starting any of them, they're only starting as my flex option. So I'm going for upside in my flex spot. I'm not going for my safe 7 to 10 points unless I'm just loaded across the roster. So for me, it would be Sony Michel at this point because you gave me that scenario. It's start Michel, it's bench White, and it's drop Burkhead.
Ooh, Garion?
I think I would start James White. Probably bench Burkhead and drop Michel.
I'm on the same page as you, but I have no clue.
But again, it's like what Jake led with. I really have no interest in investing heavily in this.
James White's been good through 2
anyway,
weeks.
White's been fine, and I think that we sort of saw this happening. I guess we picked the wrong running back that this would happen with, but they were going to end up using one of the running backs as a receiver, probably both. And I still think it's going to be a situation where if it wasn't such a distinct snap count advantage last week, although you could argue in the same sense, how often are the Patriots going to be losing in football games, especially that early?
If you talk to Cust, all the time.
All the time. It's starting.
Well, hold on. We'll also look who they're facing this week. The option might be start Burkhead, start Michel, start White.
that is true. The Lions have not looked great.
That is also true.
And Matt Patricia is probably going to let them win.
And also, the narrative here, and you might have already heard about this, but Belichick will run up the score just to show Patricia what he gets for leaving.
Show him what's what. Best thing that ever happened to them was Patricia leaving. Their defense didn't look great last week. It's
very possible the Texans make defenses look exceedingly good.
The Patriots defense we saw last week against Jacksonville, still better than the Patriots defense last year.
That's fair.
So the rest of these guys, Peyton Barber, the most useless 75% snap count in history. They don't run.
They just don't run the ball.
The Fitzmagic has too much magic.
Well, what was it in week 1? Their running backs combined for 8 points.
Yeah.
Despite the fact they scored 49.
Yeah.
We can talk about game script and red zone attempts and blah 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 all day long, but
they just pass.
If you get a situation where your team has scored 85 points and the running backs have scored next to nothing, I just don't know what you do with that.
From that 30 range,
drop them.
That is an option. Yes.
Well, kidding aside, I hate to your point, Pat. I hate to give up somebody with that kind of workload and a share of the offense. But when somebody asked me today, Matt Breida or Peyton Barber, who do I drop for Gio?
Yeah,
goodbye Barber.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. But now you're now dealing with that's a certain circumstance. Like when I'm thinking about, like, I have Peyton Barber on a few teams, usually like 14-man leagues.
Oh yeah,
like,
just put him on the bench. It's
yeah,
fine.
like am I dropping Peyton? Like I have worse guys than Peyton Barber on my team. Also, my team not very good. So if that 30 range, like the Henry, Jamal Williams, Aaron Jones, Ty Montgomery, I'm going to stick with Jamal Williams this week. I have him at 32. I don't think he's a good start, but I'm curious to see how this plays itself out with Jones returning, whether they want to do anything with him in pass protection, because that's always been the knock on Jones, that he might be the better running back. Mm-hmm. But if they're going to throw the ball 45 times because Rodgers can't line up under center, they're going to need him to pass block too. And if he can't do that, he's not going to see the field. So Jake, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm with you. And I asked some of the two beat writers from the Athletic or the Packers, but they said the same thing we do, is we don't know, because it's not only the fact that it's night and day. Like, it's not close. You people have to understand out there that Jamal Williams is an exceptional pass blocker. Aaron Jones is miserable. Like, it's night and day. But they said they were going to try and work on it, but because he's not allowed to practice with the team while suspended, we don't know if Aaron Jones has gotten any better. Obviously, what we saw last year, Aaron Jones looks more explosive, but then you can make the counter argument, too, that Jamal Williams was playing with DeShone Kizer and Aaron Jones got to play with Aaron Rodgers. So through the first 2 weeks, you can almost throw that out as well. He faced two of the worst defenses possible in the Bears and the Vikings. I don't think we have a real tell until this week. I think this week is going to be a very good answer to what the question is who's the best option for the Packers. And as of right now, I'll still roll out Jamal Williams for one more week to see what he can do against a mediocre defense versus what he saw the first 2 weeks, and knowing that he's the exceptional pass blocker.
Jones is someone you should have on your team. You just shouldn't be playing him right
Yes.
now. And all of a sudden, we're going to hear something like, oh my God, that's Ahman Green's music. And then all of a sudden, he's in the game for the Packers.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. I looked at Williams the start of this season, and obviously situation was nowhere close to this, but over the last, I think it was 5 weeks of last season, he was essentially just Melvin Gordon. Like, he had a ridiculously high workload. He had no efficiency, but he scored a bunch of fantasy points. And like Jake said, he has some of the markers that would keep you on the field as a 3-down back. I mean, he is an exceptional pass blocker. So I think that people will look at the Aaron Jones numbers from last season and maybe get excited. I would say I would not start him this week. I would stay away from the situation. But we even saw it last week. We had concerns that because of this Aaron Rodgers injury and maybe his inability to hand off and maybe they play more from shotgun, that we'd see a lot more of Ty Montgomery. Williams still played 61% of the snaps. So I think that the Green Bay staff, maybe somewhat out of necessity with the Aaron Jones suspension, but I think they don't. They like the guy. They like the guy.
Sick voice.
I do have a sick voice, as I am sick. But I just think that they like him more. And until I see Aaron Jones literally steal that role from him, I'm going to assume it's Jamal Williams.
Anyone else, Jake, you think that you got a problem with, we should talk about, or is it just all inconsequential at this point?
No, we start getting to the other pieces here. The only one I was going to make the case for was a little bit higher on Rex Burkhead because the Lions are god-awful against the run. I mean, you start everybody in a backfield, but we already covered that. I think everything else it's pretty much in the range it should be.
Garion?
Yeah, I don't really see anything. I mean, I guess Sproles at 39, if he's healthy and playing, like...
This is accounting for a banged-up Sproles button playing.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
And like Sony Michel, I have at 48. I should probably move him up. That seems too low. Now that I look at the list.
Really, who else do you have? Like Chris Carson? We found out once again that Pete Carroll is a liar.
Yeah, Pete Carroll just constantly lies. The lies with him.
Mike Davis was in that game. Why do you need to put Mike Davis on the
Chris Carson
team?
was too gassed from playing special teams. Why would you start running back beyond special teams?
Oh, wait. The follow-up to that we just saw a little while ago was that he missed the news that the special teams coach actually pulled Chris Carson from special teams to get him a breather, and he didn't realize that.
What's going on in Seattle? Why do they run on first down every single play? Like, it's not even a question. It's like, oh, Seattle's lined up in shotgun. Bet you it's a run. And like they're not fooling anybody. Someone even made the point, like, Rashad Penny he was averaging, like, at some point in the game, it was like 8 carries for 9 yards or something. It's like, Rashad Penny should just stand at the line of scrimmage and fall forward. He's 2 yards tall. He would get 2 yards per carry. But he doesn't, I don't know if he's not good. That entire team's not good.
Well, like, the offensive line is trash.
Their offensive line sucks, but I think that Brian Schottenheimer thinks it's 1971.
Possible. I mean, look, that entire Sunday Night Football game was just two offenses stuck in 1985. Some teams just don't have it. There's going to be, you'd have to think at some point, like, some of these names kind of filter out across the next 5 years. But, you know, as all millennials complain about, these damn baby boomers just want to keep their jobs.
Yeah, they want to keep living, and they want to keep their jobs, and they won't retire.
Ruining the NFL.
Wide receivers. Probably playing, I have Marquise Goodwin, Devontae Parker, Dante Moncrief, Antonio Brown, Larry Fitzgerald, and Jarvis Landry. Again, if there's updates, check the rankings. Swear to God, yeah, I'll update them before the Thursday game and before the Sunday game. Swear to God. Probably not playing, Alshon, Curtis Samuel, Travis Benjamin, and Josh Gordon. Out, Mike Wallace, probably done for the year. Doug Baldwin still a few weeks away from coming back. And Julian Edelman. The roided out Julian Edelman. When he returns to the field, Hulk Hogan's his jersey off. He can't do that yet because he's still suspended. The rankings themselves, Michael Thomas. I have at number 1, most receptions in NFL history through 2 games. Pretty good.
That's not bad.
DeAndre Hopkins, Antonio Brown, Julio Jones, Beckham, Mike Evans, AJ Green, Tyreek Hill, Stephen Diggs, Adam Thielen. Number 11 is Devontae Adams, then Keenan Allen against them Rams, which we talked about. T.Y. Hilton, Juju, Brandon Cooks, Jarvis Landry, Nelson Aguilar, Quincy Enunwa. And that's where I'm going to stop. In PPR scoring, I think those 18 are must-starts.
Okay.
Would
You
you
don't
go?
think you'd have Tate in a must-start role in a PPR?
Listen, if you have Tate, you're starting Tate. I have him ranked.
I get it. The 3 wide receivers.
It's the 3 wide receivers. It just he might get the bad end of the draw. It's a great matchup. That's why I have him ranked as the top Lion. Oh, I have all 3 Lions, I think, inside the top
26. Yeah.
The top 26. I think it's a great opportunity for them, even if they get down like 30-0 early. They're
very used to that at this point.
They're gonna get their points either way. But one of these guys could get left out, and that's always the worry. So you can't say someone who could get left out is a must start. So he's on the very next one down. Jake, is there anyone you would take in or out of that conversation?
Yeah, I would actually. I think Emmanuel Sanders is a must start for the connection that Case Keenum has with him and the matchup this week. I think I would be surprised if he doesn't have 6 or 7 catches in his pocket.
Because you'd have to think that Brandon Carr is going to be on DT.
Why though?
Well, just because he doesn't line up in the slot.
Right. They've been using Sanders out of the slot.
Yeah, so, I mean, even the stat breakdown from Thursday Night Football last week was staggering. Like, when Brandon Carr was on A.J. Green, I think he had 1 catch for 10 yards, and then all of the touchdowns came when the Ravens put anyone else on him. Like, they just don't have a second corner with Smith not available.
When's Jimmy Smith back? Week 5?
Week 5, yeah.
You got the 4 game? Should have fielded that, like Julian Edelman.
Probably.
And then he could have been roided out on the field at the same time, too. Okay, then I'll just extend that I'll move Emmanuel Sanders up 1 to 19, and we'll make Sanders the bottom of the absolute must-start. Unless you just think that Tate should be a must-start.
I think it's
I have the same
fine.
concern.
Yeah.
And, like, that's why Cooper Kupp, I mean, it does seem like Cooks is the guy there. It really does.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, look, he's probably the most talented of the 3.
Yeah,
I
still like Cooper Kupp, though. Like, I even moved up Robert Woods this week.
We talked about this last week. It's at the very least, this situation is presenting itself with the 2 teams who tend to run the most 3 wide receiver sets in football. Like, week 1, I think it was 63 snaps for the Rams, 61 featured all 3 of those wide receivers. Like, that's their base formation, is 3 wide receivers, a tight end, and a running back. So it's fine. They're all top 30 wide receivers. Great. Maybe not Woods. But
I like Woods more this week.
How come?
For 2 reasons. One is we know where Cooks lines up the most, and you see the left and you see the right matchup on the other side. For that is actually the worst corner you could possibly face. It's not scary. I'm not saying stay away from Brandon Cooks, but he's got the worst matchup of the 3. And if you look at it, Robert Woods has the most targets so far. And as of today, he's got the softest matchup of the 3. This just feels like Brandon Cooks got all the targets. The receptions haven't really come there. Or not, I'm sorry, Brandon Cooks. Robert Woods has all the targets. The receptions haven't come. They haven't really connected so far. But I think the matchup helps it swing. Again, this is trying to predict the Detroit Lions, the 3 wide receiver sets, who's going to have his game this week. It just feels like the setup is for things to start connecting with Woods this week.
Air yards.
Yeah, so many air yards. You can almost like write in basically where I have Cooks at 15, Rams wide receiver 1. Where I have Cooper Kupp at 21, Rams wide receiver 2, and where I have Robert Woods at 38, Rams wide receiver 3. Yeah. And then you can fill in which ones you feel most comfortable with.
Also, stupid Tyler Higbee got the damn goal line reception.
Her name is Eleanor Higbee.
No, but the point being is I was only saying that because of that risk, because of we're trying to figure out and trying to predict an unpredictable situation with those Rams wide receivers, is I feel better about starting Landry and Enunwa and Emmanuel Sanders over Cooks because of that risk.
Yeah, that could be true. I'm good with the upside for Cooks there. I'll take the downside that could potentially come along with his upside. And like I said, I think this game could shoot out a little bit.
Well, let's think. I mean, you look at the situation. If there's ever going to be a spot where you can sustain 3 wide receivers and a running back who's right now got, I believe he's on pace for 120 red zone carries.
That's
so good luck with that, Todd Gurley. Right now they have 5.5 red zone trips per game, which is, I think, a trip and a half more per game than anyone else so far this season. Small samples, clearly.
Now that's a trip.
But 11 red zone possessions already this season. Like, they're going to just score points. So it's a big pie, at the very least, that these guys are pulling from.
Okay, so I have Jarvis Landry ranked at number 16. He is questionable. Like, there's a chance he doesn't play. I think he's going to play.
I think he's going to play.
I think they're just like, I just don't want to practice today.
That's the thing, too. You get to that point where you're on a short week, you're a little banged up. Like, what is Jarvis Landry going to do in practice?
Okay, so I have him at 16.
To yell at the receivers for not trying their hardest.
Yeah, that's true. I have Jarvis at 16. I have Antonio Callaway at 54. And I have Rashard Higgins at 56. I took your advice, Jake. I went with Callaway over Higgins in this spot. He did play a higher percentage of the snaps against New Orleans. But it gets down to the point of how many Browns receivers do I really want to start?
Just one. Neither one of them have good matchups on the outside, so I would only look to be starting Jarvis Landry in this game.
So let's say Landry sits. Would any of the would Callaway or Higgins become must starts, or would they enter that
I think you
top
just like
30?
Njoku and Duke Johnson a whole lot more.
You do, but I would go with Callaway because similar to what we talked about with the waiver show, is they move him around. They're the athleticism, they're going to find a ways, and I think they could move him into the slot to try and get some of those matchups and start to move him around more than what you was like. Higgins isn't getting moved to the slot. I don't see going forward at this point.
So would that make Callaway a top 20 receiver, a top?
No, I wouldn't go
30,
that far.
Top 30?
I was gonna say like top 35 because he's still Antonio Callaway.
I mean, look, like Jake said, he's immensely talented.
Yeah, but what if he just starts smoking pot on the field and then be like, it wasn't me, it was my friend. Good excuse. It worked out for him.
It did work.
That's not my gun.
But if he does that, they'll punish him by making him play every offensive snap. So then we've got a huge volume for Antonio Callaway.
And then trade him to the Patriots.
Yeah, perfect.
So we don't really need to talk about Josh Gordon. He's not going to play this week. But Tim texted me.
Are we sure?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. I'm assuming he's not playing this week. Do you think he is?
I don't know.
Really?
I could see him being out there. It wouldn't put it this. It wouldn't
there's no way,
surprise me.
There's no way though you could wait and not put him in a lineup at 1 o'clock. If we don't know by 1 o'clock Sunday, there's no way you're really waiting on that.
Okay, let's say we do know.
Right.
Let's say that Josh Gordon is playing. They tell us on like Friday, which they won't because of the Patriots.
What is he?
Would you play him? Because I don't think I wouldn't
Yes.
play him. I just wouldn't play him.
I think he's around like Keelan Cole, John Brown territory.
Really?
That's actually exactly where I was going to say.
You'd have Josh Gordon 5 days on the Patriots inside
Sure.
the top 35?
I think so.
Well, look at what Josh Gordon did after not playing football. He came back and put up 100 and whatever in touchdowns. He comes back again from not playing football and puts up 80 yards and a touchdown. This guy has gone from not playing football, coming back to a new offense and putting up huge numbers. I think he can go from playing football to a new offense with Tom Brady and put up numbers.
It's a very compelling argument. I just assumed he wasn't playing.
No, I don't think he's playing either. But I think if we're gonna have the conversation, I think he's locked in as like a mid-tier wide receiver 3.
I will. Do you think Parker plays this week?
I do.
So do I. So that's why I have Kenny Stills at 40, Jamison Crowder at 41. If Goodwin plays, would you play Goodwin or Garcon?
Goodwin.
Goodwin, yeah.
I'd play Goodwin too. So
Garoppolo loved him in the preseason.
He did. Garoppolo just loves being handsome and being the shits in the red zone.
It's true.
He's like,
No, he figured it out. Just throw it to Garrett Selleck.
yeah,
That's now their play in the red zone.
He just watches Matt Ryan game tape from last year. And he's like, all right, here's the plan. So yeah, I think I would be far more pensive about Josh Gordon. I've been sort of down on Josh Gordon this entire.
That's fair.
I think I would still play. He'd be right around Kenny Stills.
But look, I stand by what I said before.
You stand
like,
with Josh Gordon.
I 100%
Littering
stand
and
with Josh Gordon.
littering and
But
littering and smoking the reefer.
there we go. There's no possible way we're gonna find this out before 1 o'clock on Sunday.
That's fair.
And ergo, you're just not gonna play him.
Okay, so 21 to 30. Cooper Kupp, Will Fuller, Corey Davis, Marvin Jones, Chris Hogan, Kenny Galladay, Amari Cooper, Devin Funchess, Allen Robinson, Larry Fitzgerald, who I'm not confident is going to play. I have him in right now, but that's probably even too high. I don't know. What do I do with Larry Fitzgerald?
He probably wants to be off this team.
Yeah.
Do you think he'll retire at halftime?
Oh, I hope so.
That's a new thing. It's a trend.
Oh, force yourself for a trade is the new trend too. I think you have to start Larry Fitzgerald in PPR if he's out there. I know Sam. Look, Bradford's looked miserable, and I told you we talked about this yesterday, or well, whenever people are watching this, the waiver show. Is I hope Josh Rosen takes over at some point. I thought there was a chance Rosen could take over Week 1 the way that he played, and it's not going to be. They're not going to continue to roll Bradford out there if he looks like he did the first 2 games. So it could happen after this week, where hell at halftime. You're telling me. Let's put it this way. If he comes out, Sam Bradford's got 70 yards and 2 picks by halftime, that Rosen's not coming out for the third quarter?
I have no idea.
I would have to think yes, but I'm not putting anything past this Cardinals coaching staff.
I think I've read too much Steve Wilkes, just like
Now,
press conference stuff.
What if it was just Steve Wilkos?
See, that guy I would trust. He's big.
He's big.
And bald.
Which
means he can make decisions.
And he's worked his way up the coaching tree, too. He was a bouncer. Now he has his own show.
true.
He's constantly dealing with crazy people.
Wait, he has his own show?
Yeah, the Steve Wilkos show has literally been on for like 13 years, I think.
Has it been 13?
I never knew he had
I
a
used to watch it in high school. You're right. Yeah.
I'm going to go Google this. You
Is
guys
it
tell
still
me.
on, though?
pretty sure.
Maybe.
Isn't
I
everything that
didn't
used
know
to...
he had one.
Murphy Brown is back on the air. You don't think
Yes,
Steve Wilkos can continue his show?
Because CBS rightfully realized that only 65-year-old people watch their network, so just bring back every show they liked from the
Magnum
80s.
PI is coming back.
But he's Hispanic. No one's gonna like that.
Oh, it's not Tom Selleck.
Very,
It's
very white CBS audience.
Oh yeah, they might not
With
enjoy
no
that.
mustache.
No mustache.
No mustache.
I'm not watching.
Still has
that
a
show.
Tigers hat.
And they're pulling the same crap they did with Hawaii 5-0 too. If you've seen the trailer, they're destroying the old Ferrari in the first the first episode. It's gone, so they can get the new updated one.
Yeah, that sucks.
It's just not right. I think Jake's
Steve
right, though.
Wilkos is a former Chicago cop
That makes sense.
and security guard of the Jerry Springer Show.
Great.
Oh yeah, season 12, episode 4 aired on September 20th, 2008. There's like a new show every day. The new season just started, season 12.
There you
Steve
go.
Wilkos show.
There you go. No, it's great.
He looks like Hank from Breaking Bad.
He does. He does. Except
Wait, what was
taller.
Garion, you were saying you agree with me? What was
Yeah,
that?
I think you have to play Larry Fitz.
Oh, I thought you
I'm
were
not.
talking about playing Steve Wilkos. I lost my train of thought.
Oh, Steve Wilkos was a tight end.
All right, Larry Fitzgerald or Demarius Thomas?
Marius, if he's okay.
Yeah,
I'm going to
probably
take
Demarius.
Fitz here. Fitz or
I mean,
Keelan?
he was crawling off the sideline last week.
Who?
Demarius.
Marius.
So is Fitz.
Yeah.
Giving
That's
you
true.
Fitz. Fitz or Keelan Cole?
Are you going to Garion? I'm waiting for Garion
I'm gonna
to
say
answer.
Fitz.
Okay,
Yeah.
Fitz from Garion.
All right,
What about you?
Fitz.
Oh, Fitz. Okay, Fitz or John
Yeah.
Brown?
Oh, you know I love John Brown.
It's a bad
I don't-
matchup.
I
Still
don't love
say
the matchup though. I'm
Fitz,
going
though,
Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
Okay, Fitzgerald or Tyler Lockett?
Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
So, Fitzgerald's in the spot he should.
The problem you're going to have at this point in the rankings is, I mean, he just stands out of this group because his volume share is going to be so much higher than anyone you're going to name past that
Right.
point.
Yeah,
So,
but it's almost like a Peyton Barber situation. Well, you might get all this volume, but does it mean anything?
I can't believe
And
I'm going to
we'll-
say this
you
again.
know what?
There's
Will the
no
volume
way the
be there?
game
I mean-
script is this bad again.
I don't know. David Johnson needs more targets, and Christian Kirk needs more targets, and everybody needs more targets. So maybe it's not a bigger.
To be
volume.
fair, they could easily take that away from Ricky Seals-Jones, who somehow has 6 targets in both of these atrocities. Stop giving Ricky Seals-Jones targets.
Okay. If,
No, how about just give him targets on target?
That would help too.
if Larry Fitzgerald sits, is there another Cardinals receiver you would play? Like 2 coked out Christian Kirk?
I guess
would play
it's
Christian Kirk.
Yeah.
You would? Like, where would he slot in? Would you play?
Oh, it wouldn't be a great play. I'd put him down at like the Mike Williams Crabtree range.
Yeah.
So like low 40s.
Yeah, I think you'd
Okay.
have to have him behind like Crowder and Marshall,
Crowder.
Watkins.
By the way, in this range, Pat, because you need to ask, the only one that I have a problem with. You know, I am one of the biggest Corey Davis fans there are. There is no way I want to start him this week.
Starting him every week. The guy's gets a ton of targets.
I
Did
don't
you see
from
him?
Blaine Gabbert against Jacksonville. Thank you.
Did you see him truck stick that guy last week?
It's true.
That's
he,
great.
he got 4 yards off of that though.
Sick. You got truck stick.
I don't
bonuses.
trust Blaine Gabbert to get him anything. And hell, if Marcus Mariota plays, that might be a worse situation.
Okay, so where should I drop Corey Davis to then?
I'd put him behind Larry Fitzgerald.
I'm not doing that. I would rather play Corey Davis.
It's
than a bag-
PPR. If we're talking
Even
non
if it's
PPR,
well,
I'm with you.
even if it is PPR, he still might. Corey Davis might have with 8 catches for 8 yards.
No, you're assuming the ball gets to him.
He'll get to him. Blaine Gabbert, isn't this a revenge game for Blaine Gabbert if he plays?
Don't you have to actually have done something in the
I was gonna
past
say, I
for
don't know
it
if
to be
he's
revenge?
capable of revenge.
Yeah, he was so bad they were able to draft all these good defensive players.
That's true.
He was
This
the
is
best thing
this
that
is
ever happened to their
self-fulfilling
team.
prophecy this week.
All right, so Corey Davis, I'll put him behind Allen Robinson.
That's not even a question for me.
All right, so
Yeah.
23 to from 29, everyone moves up.
I
a
will
spot.
say, with Allen Robinson, at the very least, I have to give Nagy some credit where Robinson was running like Allen Robinson routes week 1, and they quickly realized, like, oh, Trubisky can't throw these routes. Let's just have him run like 9-yard digs the entire game. So now he might just get 13 targets a game.
Okay, here's the thing. Mitch Trubisky throws the ball like someone whose PlayStation controller has like a wonky X button. So sometimes it's like lasers, and the other time it's way too short. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if he's any good.
No, but like I'm saying,
He's
I
good at
think
running.
he can throw the ball 10 yards away from him. Anything within 10 yards, he's acceptable.
That's catchable Allen Robinson radius.
Which is fine because literally, I mean, you look at the difference in the ADOT between week 1 and week 2 for Allen Robinson. They really went out of their way to be like, oh, okay, we have to keep this guy within a certain amount of yards of Trubisky or he's never going to complete a pass. So at least they're kind of learning.
I like your comparison there, Matt. Matt. Hey, Matt.
Hello.
Hi. I was gonna
Real punchable face, that Matt.
Yeah, Matt Mayo. I'll get him. So the entire 31-40 area, DT, Cole, Brown, Lockett, Cobb, Djax. Do I have Djax too low?
I have no
He's not gonna catch a 70 or a touchdown every week, is he?
It was a really good spot against Philly with the way they just leave them their corners
And
on
the
island.
Steelers defense reeks.
That's a good point too.
The Steelers have given up, I think, what, QB 6 and QB 10 so far, or QB 2? Wait, no, QB 2 and QB 6, and one of them's Taylor. So yeah, I think you could roll out this Deshaun Jackson another week.
I mean, he's the bottom end of wide receiver 3 starts for me. I mean, if you feel better about him, you can move him up. Then I have Goodwin, Woods, D.D. Westbrook, Kenny Stills. And then I have 41, Jamison Crowder, Garcon, Brandon Marshall, Sammy Watkins, Chris Godwin, Mike Williams, Michael Crabtree, Dante Pettis, Ted Ginn Jr., and Tyler Boyd. Then it's like your Allisons, Dorsetts, Robbie Andersons. Robbie Anderson is probably borderline droppable, I think.
I don't like no Jamison Crowder. Alex Smith, that he does not have control of that offense so far, and the biggest thing is Crowder's not even getting the targets. What does he have, 6? There's something's not right there.
I feel like this is going to work itself out.
I think I would give.
They're not
going
to throw the ball to Chris Thompson 18 times a game. That can't happen.
He's in Alex Smith's favorite spot, which is nowhere close to the first down.
Standing right next to him.
So his ADOT after 1 week was 3.6
people in football with more
yards.
catches than him.
I understand that, but it's not going to keep up.
I would. It's
like Barkley's not going to catch 16 passes. Oh, he might.
That might happen.
I know, but the problem is like Alex Smith is not in sync with this offense. If I'm going to start somebody, I'd rather it be the big play with Paul Richardson, or even there's been no sync with James or Josh Doxson either. But the fact is there's no targets going to Crowder. That's my biggest concern.
All right, where should I move Crowder down to then?
I'd start Crabtree in front of him.
But would you play Crowder or Pettis?
I'd play. If Goodwin's back, I'm not playing Pettis.
Yeah, we're playing this. I mean, I just threw him in there. I should probably put Chris Conley into this mix too. But you had mentioned it earlier, where this game's such a shootout. Just having pieces of it, like once you're down in this territory and you have the Gins and the Dorsetts and Ryan Grant and Cole Beasley and Robbie Anderson and like these types of guys, Pettis is playing in the game that projects to score the most points, so he might just catch a touchdown.
It's true.
Yeah, I don't like the Mike Williams matchup, and I would still play Mike Williams in front of Crowder at this point.
Would you play Crabtree or Crowder?
Oh, I guess I would play Crabtree. I would say, though, to Jake's point, it's not looking great right now, but I think, again, we went over how old that reference is last time.
Some are crabs.
It's not that old if you played the video games.
That's true.
Well, Garion pointed out to me when we did this at the Sunday live show last week, because I was doing the exact same thing, because I only have like 3 bits, and that's one of them. that show came on, that episode came on so long ago that it was when Queer Eye for the Straight Guy was like in its peak the first time around.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Because that was the B plot of that.
Yeah.
Well, actually, they were the crab people. I guess
they
that
were.
wasn't even the B plot.
And they dressed up
like crab, looks like people.
See, everyone loves crab people.
Not denying that. I was just gonna say, I think I trust Alex Smith enough to get the hang of this offense at some point. Maybe it's not till like week 4 or 5.
All right, so
I don't know. I've watched a lot of those first 2 games. I'm hitting in here, stupid Virginia, and having to see them on my TV.
All right, I'll put Crowder in between Crabtree and Pettis.
Sure.
Is there any other receiver you did want to talk about? Are you a big fan of Willie Snead IV because he's dehydrated?
No, not really. The Tyler Boyd, I think you're a little aggressive on the Tyler Boyd.
50?
Yeah. I do. I think that's a little aggressive.
Well, here's the thing. Sneak peek. If people have made it 57 minutes into the show, I get to a point in the rankings and I just stop caring.
That's pretty fair.
My rankings are bad anyway. You really think I have a hot takes on 50 versus 51? I actually threw this out to people and I crowdsourced it. I said, who would you play between Ginn, Boyd, Allison, Dorsett, Anderson, Callaway, and Grant? And the most common thing is the order I put them in. Everyone had different takes on it, though. Well, I do think this is an interesting range.
Sure, it is. I guess the argument for Boyd would just be, he's going to be on the field.
Watch this be a John Ross week.
I don't think those are going to happen.
You don't think those exist?
Frequency. One might exist. I don't want to take everything away from a guy who was a top 20 talent just a year ago in the draft, but
Yeah, but everyone agreed that was a bad pick.
I don't know if he can catch.
Yeah, his catching ability lacks.
That's an issue.
It's working for Will Fuller.
Oh, hey, Will Fuller's like turned into a lovely player, that Will Fuller, by the way.
Hey, by the way, I
Should
noticed
point out
somebody
Josh
that's not
Adams
even
also a lovely
here.
player.
Who?
Did you not even rank Kelvin Benjamin?
No, he's in worst place.
Oh, okay.
What did he
I
do
didn't
to be in
see
worst place?
He fucking sucks.
Okay, that's fair. Usually there's like some sort of personal attack.
He did. He scored a touchdown last week in ultimate garbage time. So he actually went from worst place number 1 to worst place number 2. So that's not bad. That's like moving up in the world.
Jordy, not that I want to start him against the Vikings.
Jordy Nelson is now worst place number 1.
But is this like if there were some sort, not to make a NASCAR reference and lose everyone, but when you're a lap down and there's an accident, someone gets like the lucky dog and gets back on the lead lap?
The fact that you know it's a lucky dog.
I have no fucking idea what you're
How do you live
talking
in Virginia and not what the lucky dog is?
No, I know what you're talking. That's what I'm saying. My roommate's also a huge NASCAR guy.
I wouldn't. I watched
about.
NASCAR 10
Does your
years ago.
roommate sleep with his cousin?
By the way, I got plenty of comments of like, oh, you have to have a good. Yeah, screw me for having 3 bedrooms and giving one away for free rent every month. Yeah, I'm an idiot.
How dare you? How dare you want to make? How dare you want to make extra money?
As every third person rents out their place
To Airbnb.
Yeah, to Airbnb when they leave for the weekends.
Yeah, I would love to do that. My wife won't let me. Every time that we're not there, I'm like, we should do Airbnb. She's like, and I want weirdos in my house. I was like, I don't care. I want the money.
Good money for your place.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Be perfect. Primo location.
Uh-huh.
I don't know how I can afford to live there. I can't. That's the key. Jake, you got any more time?
Yeah, sure. I got like 20 minutes.
All right, we can finish the rest of this because no one gives a shit about quarterbacks anyway. Quarterbacks probably playing. Carson Wentz gonna play. Marcus Mariota, I bet you he plays this week. He almost played last week.
See, he didn't though. They just had to leave him active because they only have 2 quarterbacks on the roster.
Bad grip. He's got a strong hand. Another hip current reference. Yeah, I think people could tell when I stopped going to the movies and watching TV. Suspended Jameis Winston. Okay, number 1 in the rankings, Patrick Mahomes. He was number 2 last week. Up 1 spot this week to number 1. It's Patrick Mahomes. One of these weeks is going to be. He's just going to be awesome.
Sure,
it's going to happen. But
he's not going to be the greatest quarterback of all time. But yeah,
you know who was the most prescient person on this Patrick Mahomes thing? Feinberg. Feinberg was so terrified to play Mahomes week 1 because he's like, we don't have tape on him, so we don't know. We can't anticipate.
I thought the one Mahomes game wasn't the ones Mahomes start against the Chargers.
No, it was against Denver last.
Oh, it was Denver. I knew it was a divisional game.
But the thing with Mahomes is, I feel like he's going to hit a rough patch around like week 6, 7, 8. I don't know who they're playing, but that's just throwing that out.
Here's the argument against that, which is just
he's too damn good.
Not even that he's too damn good. I just think he's in the perfect system. I mean, we talk so much about these skill position players. Andy Reid is exceptional at coaching offense.
Yeah, but what happens with Andy Reid every year? Like, Andy Reid's the king of having his team start 9-1, and then all of a sudden they're not good anymore.
I think when the Chiefs lose, it won't be because of Mahomes. It'll be because their defense can't stop anybody.
It's coming soon. It's coming sooner. He's got at Denver and Jacksonville coming up after this week. And to the point, like, if you've watched, and I like to the people out there that always do it to us, like, have you watched him play? Well, if you've watched both these games, you've seen that he's narrowly missed about 3 interceptions. And I'm not saying it's not like he doesn't have the arm strength and the placement to be able to get away with it like an Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers gets away with it all the time because he's that damn good. It's just, I know he has the skill set, but he's still making the decisions that are questionable, which we saw in the preseason where he had a pick or 2 and should have had another 2 or 3. He's been fortunate so far. I'm not saying he's going to fall off the cliff, but again, if he tries to pull this against Denver and Jacksonville, he's coming out with interceptions.
That's fair. I just think I wouldn't hold that against him necessarily. And also, I'm
playing so much Patrick Mahomes against Jacksonville on DraftKings that week.
That's
genius. I will just roll the dice on that one.
Well, here's the thing. He is the type of quarterback, specifically as it pertains to fantasy, who, like Jake said, he's probably going to have a game where he gets picked 3 times, but he could still throw 4 touchdowns in that game because he's not going to stop throwing those passes.
I just think there's going to be a wall when defenses catch up to what unless Andy Reid is, it's like I said, it's like he has like 10 weeks of being ahead of everyone, then everyone passes him.
It's fair.
And they get the old lucky dog, or the fuck you were talking about.
The lucky dog, yes.
Yeah, the lucky dog.
Again,
he's the anti-Chargers. Like the Chargers wake up for the last couple weeks. He's the reverse.
It's like Highlander, but with the AFC West.
Unless they're the greatest show on turf, or they're the 2007 Patriots, whatever it is, eventually teams catch up to what you're up to.
I guess, but
Does he throw for 50 touchdowns?
No.
no, I would take the under on that. But the thing,
It's hot take.
yeah, I know. Well, he's got 10.
45?
He's got 10 already.
Like, if you're 45, he's only got 35 to go.
We're in a passing league. It's not
I
insane.
know it's not inconceivable, but I think it's just one of those things. We're just like,
Fair.
yeah, I'll take the
Inconceivable.
I'll take the under 50.
Another
Another
real
hit.
hot.
Yeah, we're all.
All right. Okay. Legitimate question, Pat. 40.5 over under.
I take the over.
I'd probably take the over because that division. He's already done it against the Chargers. I don't think the Denver defense is as good as people think. Like that's not gonna be like shut down. Time.
I just think with that defense too, they're always going to be in these types of games.
Always
where
be
he's going to have
throwing.
to score. I don't know.
ABT.
Always be throwing.
Always be throwing.
I just think too the way that the Chiefs have designed their offense, even if you don't think they can out scheme people for the entirety of the season, they also just tend to have the best athletes at skill positions. Like there's no way to really scheme around just their players being faster and better than your players.
Sure, unless you Tanya Harding them.
That
Rest of the rankings. We don't
know
need
if
to
I would
argue
call
about
that
it. We don't.
scheme.
You're playing Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes, Brady, Rodgers, Cam, Drew Brees, Deshaun Watson, Kirk Cousins, Garoppolo, Matt Ryan, Jared Goff. Then we cross into, here it comes, Ryan Fitzpatrick, who I almost ranked at number 1. Ben Roethlisberger, Russell Wilson, Phillip Rivers, Carson Wentz, who's returning, Luck, Stafford, Alex Smith, Dak Prescott, Rand Tannehill. Top 20. What a hero. A wide receiver playing quarterback. Who would have thought?
he's going to run for 45 yards a week.
I find quarterbacks are such like a preference of like what certain players like to do on their own fantasy teams. Like if you have a shitty fantasy team, you might want to play. Like I think that if Gurley, there's going to be games where Gurley doesn't get into the end zone and the Rams still score a bunch of points, which means Goff can throw 5 touchdowns. So that's why I have Goff ranked at 10.
Gurley's also involved heavily in the passing game, so you could get dub points there. That's fine.
I just think that he's a good play this week.
Yeah, sure. Again, they have had 11 drives where they've gotten to the red zone. That's crazy.
Jake, is Roethlisberger too high?
No, I don't think so. I think at some he might even be a little bit too low. At some point, we have the narrative about it on the road, but you're looking at the matchup, and it's kind of hard to ignore that. I think the two that stood out to me is I would have Tyrod Taylor a little bit higher, but that's we want to nitpick about Tyrod Taylor. I think I'm not going to say for sure, but I'm going to go through, and I have a feeling Carson Wentz is going to be in my top 5.
Really?
Look, he's facing the Colts. Ignore what the Colts did last week against Alex Smith and the Redskins. That meant nothing. Their defense is still extremely questionable. Carson Wentz, they waited to make sure he's 100%. It's Carson Wentz. It's Carson Wentz against the Colts. I think Carson Wentz, the only concern I have for him is not even the passing. And I know he's without Alshon Jeffrey. But what if Alshon Jeffrey plays? But
they just brought in Jordan Matthews to work out.
Oh, yeah, that's Shay. Look, hey, he's put up numbers with the same offense before. But anyway, the only concern I have for Carson Wentz is if he's going to run as much as he used to. I think the passing is going to be there.
Well, it probably takes him I guess he's been practicing with the knee brace, but it's just such an interesting situation. I would say that you look at the top 5 that you have.
I understand
I don't
the top
know where
5.
you would put him.
I understand the top 5 ranking because a lot of these quarterback decisions, it doesn't really matter where you rank them. Like, is Carson Wentz someone you're going to play or someone you're going to wait?
That's true.
That's the decision you have to make. Because if he's someone you're going
to
play, then you probably play him over everyone.
Let's be honest. If you drafted Carson Wentz, whose value really never took a dive, I mean, we didn't find out he was definitively not playing in that game until the week of. So
you could have Mahomes.
You could have Mahomes and you could have Fitzpatrick. That's about it.
Or you could have Matt Ryan, I guess.
Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, Fitzpatrick Mahomes, those are the two.
If you have Fitzpatrick or Carson Wentz, who are you starting?
Fitzpatrick.
I think Fitzpatrick, yeah.
Whoa.
I mean,
has he signed his extension yet? No. Play Fitzpatrick.
Exactly. But also, and I don't want to take anything away from Carson Wentz, but, we make jokes about Jordan Matthews and stuff, but what are the skill, what does Carson Wentz have to work with aside from, 3 pretty good tight ends?
And Aguilar.
No,
sure,
Aguilar, Zach Ertz in the backfield.
Sure, but Aguilar, we know what his route tree is. That is not a high ceiling route tree necessarily. Ertz is a fantastic player, sure, but I just think that there's actual skill on this Bucs roster. I don't think Fitz is going to keep doing this time and time again, but this is a good matchup. It's a high scoring game. I think I'd rather play Fitz.
Yeah, just play Fitz while he's in the zone. We've seen him have, not this good, but extended stretches of playing really well, and then it just goes, and it's like he's in, here's the reference for you that you'll get. It's like he's in NASCAR, and he turns right, and he dies.
Wait, what if it's a road course?
What?
Watkins Glen.
What the hell is that? What's with you day class A people and not watching the Grand Prix of Monaco? That's what you need to be watching, F1. With my main man, Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel. Vettel. Jacques Villeneuve was very good there too.
That's true, yeah. There you go.
Any more quarterbacks? Like, if you were desperate, I moved up Josh Allen from 32 and put him ahead of Joe Flacco. He runs. They have designed run plays for Josh Allen.
That's true.
And he might have 3.5 quarters of garbage time here.
If you're really looking for like a deep streamer kind of thing.
Yeah. Give me a deep stream.
Case Keenum.
Yeah, Keenum maybe. Carr. Yeah. I mean, he's fine. I don't know. Dolphins aren't great shakes.
Where do you have Deshaun Watson?
Set a completion percentage record.
Yeah, I love Deshaun Watson this week.
So do I, because if you saw Dak Prescott last week,
rush.
Deshaun Watson might have 60 yards and a touchdown against those Giants.
Also, Deshaun Watson might have brain problems based on the way that he managed the clock. It was funny,
bad.
To see how much better the last play of the Texans game is just so stupid. And it was funny because, like, he has more talent than Russell Wilson has. Like, just to watch his physicality.
Well, he's just bigger.
He's a bigger version of Russell Wilson, really. But, like, you see the way that the play that Wilson made at the end of the second or the end of the first half on Monday night, where he ended up buying time in the pocket, but the time was running down. They were just trying to get into field goal range. They took their shots. They didn't get it. Lockett almost caught one right on the sidelines. He was out of bounds. He ended up rushing for a first down, weaving through everyone else. They got back up on the ball quickly. What do they do?
Yeah,
boom,
just
just 12. No, down it, but then as the clock was going, 12 yards over the middle with like 12 seconds left on the clock, and they're all able to get up on the ball, spike, and kick a field goal. Yeah. That's all Deshaun Watson had to do last week.
To be fair,
he needed fewer yards and he had more time.
Deshaun
he was like, gah!
Deshaun Watson might not know all 5 of his offensive linemen's first names.
Hey, do you think Russell Wilson does?
Probably.
Because he's a nice guy?
He's a nice guy. Takes water for his brain or
whatever
whatever.
happened to concussion water?
I don't know.
That just went right by the wayside, yeah.
Bubble water?
Maybe the NFL just went,
they said,
it's bad for the brand.
Well, what if someone walked up to Russell Wilson, they was like, tell the truth. And he couldn't.
Couldn't do it.
He just lives his truth. Either way, yeah, we don't need to spend any more time on quarterbacks. Wide receivers. Tight ends.
Fat wide receivers.
Fat wide receivers. Yes, the tight ends. Jermaine Gresham probably not going to play. Hayden Hurst still not practicing. Greg Olsen and Delaney Walker obviously out. The ranks. Gronk, Ertz, Kelsey, Reed, Kittle, Burton. That's going to be like my top 6 for a while, I think.
Yeah.
Howard, Ingram, Rudolph, Doyle, Njoku, Graham, I think is a pretty solid like next 6. Then it's a fucking crapshoot.
Yeah.
Like that's what we're dealing with here.
I guess I wouldn't say I trust Will Disley now, but I will say
sounds like you got hit in the head and got a case of the Disley.
But here, yes, but he did play a significant number of snaps over Vanette, which wasn't the case week 1. We've now seen him be utilized on deeper routes. I mean, it's funny. You'd think of any team, if they needed their blocking-based tight end to stay at the line and actually chip somebody, it would be the Seahawks. But no, they're content to have him run routes. Either way, who is the volume magnet in that offense? There isn't
no
one.
one.
Like, targets are up for grabs. Like,
I think it'll eventually be Brendan Marshall until Nick Mullen comes back.
I think he's dead.
I don't think he looked.
I think he's dead.
You always say this about old people, but he looked relatively spry on Monday night.
He had the same without that crazy touchdown that Lockett caught. He had the same game. They both had the same game.
Look, I don't think that's a testament to either one of those men. I think
Lockett was. I mean, Lockett's always going to be able to use his speed to his advantage. One of the things that I liked about watching Brandon Marshall in that game is that he was still. All the reasons that like Dez can't get signed because he can't create separation. Marshall was still creating separation in really tiny windows and using his giant body to box people out.
And that's his skill set. Statistically, he's not getting separation, but. I think,
but even to watch these close routes, like the separation that he needs to get, like he's running parallel because he's not super fast anymore. Not that he ever was, but he's not super fast. But his ability just to stop, plant, and just go like this and just box everyone out. He's the only guy that can catch that ball.
Fair. I just feel like
we saw that like 4 times.
If you give me an outline of what the top option on Seattle is realistically going to look like, I would say that caps out at about 20% volume share in this offense. The only position where that's acceptable is tight end. So. Okay. Will Disley's like...
I have him at 15.
Yeah, and that's fine. I think that... I'm just saying where last week I was like, that's a fluke. This is not going to happen. He's not a pass-catching tight end. Yeah, he's now someone who you probably have to consider streaming if you're in a tough spot.
Is there anyone inside that, like, do you agree with me, Jake, that these are probably the top 12 guys?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, yeah, you hit 12, and then it's good God just trying to find a touchdown.
Yeah, that's essentially, and that's why I have Ebron at 14. To be perfectly honest
I think you're actually missing one. That you would. I mean, altogether missing one, even in your top 37. With Hayden Hurst out, I would take a flyer on Mark Andrews for the touchdown.
They just have so many tight ends.
Mark Andrews, it could be that guy.
But he's the one. He's the one that's the most athletic and getting the most opportunities for, though. Of course, it could be Nick Boyle, but if you're
Or it could be Max Triple X Williams.
No, Max Williams is like, he's definitively, at least he's the third. I'm just saying, if you're looking for, this is all you're hoping for. If all you want is a touchdown, it could just be one catch, and you're going to finish as a tight end one. You just take the flyer on Mark Andrews.
I just feel like after week 1, they had 8 different receivers and tight ends and running backs with a target inside the red zone. Like, I just don't think Flacco might have ADHD.
Yeah, I know, but who they
focus on
facing?
one receiver.
Well, that's why
who they facing?
Well, that's why he needs more
talked about
SIGs.
the Broncos.
Yeah, that's true. The Broncos do funnel, but I don't know who's. I guess in the red zone, you're right. If you're going to take a red zone guy, I guess it'd be Andrews. I just don't know who's going to see the majority of the snaps in that game.
I think it's going to be Boyle. That's me. It could be Andrews, but it all depends on what Joe Camel has to do out there. Guy just looks like he demands SIGs at all times. Guy's always real stressed out. Just have a SIG, pal.
Is Jesse James maybe too low? Or was that just completely random?
It's funny because I played him
nonsense?
week 1.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, Vance McDonald's back. Perfect. Don't need to play Jesse James. Should play Jesse James. But like, what are we going to do with the Steelers offense?
But I think that if we are hunting for touchdowns, like really what's the difference between ASJ and
hunting for touchdowns
and Jesse James? At the end of the day.
Not a whole lot, but Jesse James is also averaging like 8 times the yards per target that he's ever seen in his career.
I'm not saying it's going to keep going like that. I just feel like if he's going to be the guy who's on the field and we're just looking for offenses, you're probably going to be the red
But
zone.
all of a sudden, it just could be Vance. If Vance McDonald was healthier this week,
He's never healthy.
But he played last week with the foot injury. Theoretically, he should be healthier this week.
Oh, good. He played with an injury. I'm sure he'll be healthy. Yeah, that's a great way for an injured player to get healthy.
But yeah, honestly, the way to do this, like those are the top 12 guys. After that, maybe you just target, you try to find some sort of metric where you look at highest projected point total times market share of team targets divided by who gives a fuck.
Yeah. We'll talk about this in week 5 when it actually does matter.
Yeah. So hopefully you have one of those 12 guys. If not, you're like me in our keeper league and you have Ben Watson.
Real high on Ben Watson this year.
I'm tanking, okay? It's really weird to know going into the season knowing you're tanking the year and just like the losers you need to run out. Like I'm waiting to make a trade for a young tight end and what I need to give up to go do that. So I just have placeholder tight end.
You want my Mike Gesicki shares?
No, I don't. I'm trying to get OJ Howard actually.
The snaps were actually, it was 45 to 37 for McDonald, and
really
he's the 37. But I mean, he's only 8 behind. It wasn't that big of a disparity last week.
It felt like so much more. But I guess that's just because he
Vance McDonald, Vance Refrigeration. That's what you got to be looking at. Now that's an old reference too. Damn it. DSTs before we get out of here. I got Minnesota, Saxonville, Baltimore, Cleveland, Chicago. Yes, Cleveland over Chicago. Houston, Philadelphia, the Panthers, the Rams, the Cowboys. Jake actually talked me into that one on the waiver show. Dolphins, Denver, Jets, New England, KC. You got problems, Garion?
No, I think Dallas is a great one. I mean, with their expected defensive line sack metrics versus that atrocious offensive line. I mean, we talked about this last week. If you're hunting for a defense on the waiver wire, sacks are 1 and 2 what you were looking at. So,
Jake?
Yeah.
I'm with you. I actually have the Cowboys inside my top 10, so I'm glad that you have them there. I'm just looking. I don't really have an issue with anybody.
On the Thursday night showdown on DraftKings, would you play Cleveland's defense in your captain spot?
Ooh. That's intriguing.
I think
I'm
they
gonna
might
have to write about this when I get home.
I think they might be the highest fan. Well, you know how you have to include my video in your column.
Oh, it's your video about Cleveland defense?
Yeah. Well, I think my 2 picks for the Thursday night game were Enunwa in the captain spot and Cleveland's defense. Or like
I was thinking about Enunwa. I feel like I'd probably still side with Enunwa or Landry, but maybe even Tyrod. I feel like people are just so anti-Tyrod.
I play Tyrod over playing Darnold.
Yeah.
I just after watching so much of this Cleveland team, I really do think this defense is good.
Oh, they are good. They were good last year.
But like they're really good this year.
Yeah. Myles Garrett is fantastic.
Denzel Ward's not bad.
Yeah, they have great corners. They have a great defensive line. And
naming Browns defensive players.
Yeah. But
Brian Baldy Calhoun.
Name more.
I'm about tapped out. Do they still have Jason Collins? They do.
Yeah, they do. They do.
They should trade him. You trade him, you win the Super Bowl. Trade him
One for one.
Trade him back to the Patriots. See what happens. Yeah, so those are the defenses. Like,
No, he's probably the bad influence on Josh Gordon.
maybe.
Did you bring up Terrence Mitchell too?
No, we did not.
Okay.
Chicago at number 5. There's a situation that Chicago runs into like the Rams ran into last week. Fortunately, Trubisky should actually help out this defense by probably turning the ball over twice.
But you just get to a point where they're running prevent for half the game.
Yeah, like the Rams shut them out last week and scored 13 fantasy points.
Yeah.
Because they were just like, you guys are terrible. We're just going to stop you trying to not run the ball the entire
What's the problem
time.
with Sam Bradford, too, is Sam Bradford is not like bad Ryan Fitzpatrick, where he's taking shots and throwing into coverage. Sam Bradford is boring bad, where he's going to just
Throw the ball 3
on the
yards
ground,
into the ground. Yeah. No fantasy points there?
no.
So he's Mark Rippon. There's an old reference for
That's
you.
another old
But at
reference.
least he
There we
won a
go.
Super Bowl.
No, but Mark Rippon was the king of throwing it a yard short of every receiver he had.
Well, even to talk to Paul, who's Mighty Bills fan, Paul Shaughnessy. And also, I'm winning my, what the hell's the guy's name on Jacksonville? O'Shaughnessy?
Oh, yeah.
James O'Shaughnessy.
He caught a 17-yard pass last week, which my 10-1 bet against Cuss that O'Shaughnessy would outscore Ian Leggett on the Jets, or where the hell his
Ian
name.
Leggett, who doesn't
Jordan
play.
Leggett.
Jordan Leggett, yeah, who
right.
Tim was real high on coming into the year.
No, the message boards were high on him. It's different.
Oh, so he's passing the buck onto the Jets message boards,
Yeah.
which apparently are real sad this week. They
imagine.
were very fiery after week 1, not so hot after week 2.
That'll happen after a loss.
Totally
to the
forgot what my
Dolphins.
point was. Anyway, Jake, when do your rankings come out? At midnight on Wednesday?
No. Well, technically, 12:01 tonight, Tuesday.
Oh.
Tuesday night, Wednesday/morning.
All right, so you can go listen to this. After laughing at my rankings, go to The Athletic and check out Jake's rankings, which are probably way better. More accurate,
Which, just like you, heads up, they're going to change.
No. I'm setting my lineup tonight at 12:02, and they better be right.
All right, sounds good.
Waivers don't even clear till what?
Midnight.
4 o'clock?
Midnight.
I swear on Yahoo it was always 4 a.m.
Yahoo!
Like 3:58.
Jake, pump
Yes.
the podcast, because people don't realize you got a podcast again.
Oh yeah, I know people keep still. Where can I listen to you besides Pat's show? Yeah, the All in Sports podcast, which is now on episode 6, which I had James Coe, who now works for The Athletic as well, because they're just signing everybody. Yeah, good times there. So yeah, podcast today, Tuesdays and Thursdays right now, but the demand might increase to get it to Wednesdays as well. But it's everywhere. I finally got it everywhere because I got 5 episodes, so it's on Stitchers and iTunes and Spotify's and the Google. It's everywhere now.
Same place you should subscribe to the Pat Mayo Experience. James Coe getting the Pat Mayo Experience bump.
There it is.
Unaffiliated outside of DirecTV last week, writing for The Athletic this week. You're next.
Hooray!
You can be,
Hooray.
you can the Athletic's eventually going to hire so many people that they're going to have like a minor league Athletic, where it's like the AHL of The Athletic.
I was just upset because I definitely 2 years ago sent an email to like the Toronto-based Athletic and been like, hey, does no one write about fantasy sports for this site? I can do that, so I'm going to sue because they stole my idea.
It's heavy. I bet you don't win.
Probably not.
No. Your podcast, Garion.
Yeah.
Is
Fantasy on 5, I believe it's called.
That's awesome.
I
You kind of know the
believe
name
it's
of
called.
the podcast.
No, Fantasy on 5. Yeah, listen.
I was the first guest.
Jake was the first guest. Also, actually, you know what? We've had Michael Beller-Vesai on twice now, too. So Jake was originally also the only double dip guest. But yeah, it's on Tuesday mornings and Thursday mornings.
All right. And of course, if you're watching this, you know the PME is something you can subscribe to as well. And in the comments section, give the episode a like. Leave your DraftKings handle to get into a draw for $20 DK. And this week, you need to tell us, and of all the Pat Mayo Experience guests, including myself, the host, who has the most punchable face. Look at this face. It's definitely me. Look at that jaw. Solid as a rock. You can knock me down. Can't knock me out. You can knock my teeth out. Can't knock me out. Although now it's going to become one of these things where people just walk up behind me and fucking punch me in the face, isn't it?
There you go.
It's going to be
If
bad.
I get more votes than you, could I get the DK Bucks?
No. You are ineligible for the draw, Jake. I am sorry to tell you. Everyone out there is eligible for it. Hit the description for the updated rankings. We're back on Wednesday. I should probably spoil this now. Guess who I have on Wednesday's show for the DraftKings fix?
I don't know.
Davis and Siege.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's going to be so much fire.
Oh.
They both agreed to do it too. It's gonna be awesome.
You might need someone to come in for the last 5 minutes and just give like realistic takes.
Realistic, like just someone come out and throw cold water on everything.
Just go, hey,
I am going to
disclaimer.
be the sensible one on tomorrow's show.
Oh, that's scary.
always a fun position for me to be in. So, and then Feinberg and Tim on Thursday, rankings update, and Jeff Ulrich on Friday. Gary and myself and the guest will be back Sunday morning, 10 a.m. live on the DraftKings YouTube channel, taking all your questions, breaking down the inactives, and updating the rankings. Then Jake, we're back Monday morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, live, waivers, recap, and your questions. Trade questions, not start-sit questions and waiver questions, that kind of thing. All right, thank you all for watching. I'm Pat Mayo. Good luck in Week 3. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!